From Brazil to America, a routine flight with only 8 passengers turns into a nightmare. In the blink of an eye, their small plane plummets into the heart of the unforgiving Amazon jungle. Against all odds, every single one of them survives. But their relief quickly turns into terror, because this isn't just a jungle. It's a vast, endless trap, crawling with predators, unseen dangers, and secrets no one was meant to uncover. There's no radio, no help, no way out, unless they fight the jungle and each other to make it back alive. What happens next will push them beyond the limits of human survival. This is where their true nightmare begins. The story begins with a small passenger plane heading towards America. One passenger notices something strange and asks, why has their flight route been changed? The flight attendant explains that the weather on their original route was terrible, so the pilot decided to change course, and now they'll be flying over the Amazon. Since there are only 8 passengers on this flight, no one seems too worried about the route change. But before long, the plane starts to shake violently. The pilot notices that their GPS system has suddenly stopped working. Even the control panels are failing. He tries to call the main base for help, but that fails too. While trying to land the plane safely, he takes out his phone and records what could be his final video message. He says there are big secrets hidden inside this plane, and knowing that, he should have predicted this disaster. Now the plane is rapidly losing altitude, heading straight towards the jungle. The pilot manages to avoid hitting the mountains and uses the branches of tall trees to slow down the plane. After being dragged for a few kilometers, the plane finally comes to a stop. Everyone on board survives, except for the flight attendant, who hadn't fastened her seatbelt and dies instantly from the crash impact. The passengers, shaken and afraid, begin discussing what they should do next. They confirm that apart from the flight attendant, no one is critically injured. 2 passengers rush to the cockpit to check on the pilot and see that a thick tree branch has pierced his chest. Incredibly, he's still alive. They carefully move his seat so he can breathe more easily. Just then, they hear the sound of fire outside the plane. Everyone rushes out and tries to put it out, because if the plane burns completely, they'll have no shelter until rescue arrives. A while later, once things calm down, the 8 passengers gather to understand their situation. The route change has left them deep inside the Amazon, and none of their phones have any signal. Here, without a satellite phone, there's no way to contact the outside world. The jungle stretches for hundreds of miles, so walking out is out of the question. Worse, no one even knows they're here, so no rescue team will be coming. One passenger, Jack, suggests that everyone introduce themselves so they can make better decisions as a group. Jack goes first. He works as an investigator for an insurance company, catching people who commit insurance fraud. He's just closed a case and is now heading back to America. Next is Kevin, a doctor. After years of practicing medicine, he started a business distributing medical equipment. He's returning to America after closing a deal for his new company. Kevin checks the pilot and realizes he has a vocal cord injury, which is why he can't speak. He's also the only one who can fly them out of here, so they must keep him alive at all costs. The 3rd passenger, Christina, a young woman, says she travels to many countries and shares her videos on social media. This time, she's visiting another country, but she doesn't share much about her past. The 4th is Carlos, a wrestler from Mexico heading to America for a fighting competition. Then, there's a young couple, Dawn and Amy, who are on their honeymoon. Finally, there's a middle-aged couple, David and Lisa, who run a small hotel in an American town. They're traveling now because David needs heart surgery. With introductions over, they turn to practical matters. Jack suggests they first gather all the food and water from the plane and ration it so they know how long they can survive. They find enough to last only 3 days. Since storms or heavy rain could hit the jungle, they decide the plane will be their shelter. To make space inside, they move the flight attendant's body outside. Once the small tasks are done, they start thinking about how to get out of here. Jack asks the injured pilot whether there's any satellite phone on the plane so they can call for help. He also asks why the plane veered off its original route and crashed here despite no bad weather. The pilot tries to respond, but it's clear he knows some secret he can't share because of his injury. Since Kevin is a doctor, Jack asks him to treat the pilot, but Kevin refuses, saying the pilot needs surgery, and without surgical tools or medicine in the jungle, operating will only kill him faster. So they decide to wait and hope the pilot recovers on his own. Meanwhile, Lisa distributes small portions of food to everyone. After eating, they start thinking of new ways to escape. Christina points towards a nearby hill and says, "Who knows? If we climb to the top, we might get cell signal." They agree it's worth trying, but since it's already evening, they decide to make the climb the next morning. Just then, the pilot's condition starts to worsen. Kevin, the doctor, who hadn't done anything so far, finally announces that in this state, the pilot will die anyway. So, even though it's risky, he's going to try performing surgery on the pilot right now, whatever the outcome. Whether the pilot survives or not will depend entirely on his luck. Following Kevin's instructions, the others search the plane for anything that might help with surgery. They gather a sharp kitchen knife, alcohol, and other small items that could be useful. Without anesthesia, Kevin begins the surgery, and the pilot suffers excruciating pain. Surprisingly, the surgery goes better than expected. Kevin assures everyone that after resting for the night, the pilot should recover. But before that can happen, trouble arrives. That night, while everyone is sleeping outside, a masked figure quietly approaches the injured pilot. He presses his hand over the pilot's mouth, suffocating him until he dies. In the morning, when everyone wakes up, they are shocked to see the pilot dead. After last night's surgery, the pilot's condition had actually improved, and he had hinted that he would tell them something important. Kevin says there's no sign of infection in the body. So how did he die? They discuss that someone should have been assigned to watch over the pilot during the night, but now nothing can be done, and they conclude that perhaps he died from his injuries after all. They place the pilot's body under a tree, next to the flight attendant's body, a little distance away, so that if a rescue team ever comes, they can return the bodies to their families. They don't bury them. No one notices that the pilot's phone has fallen from his pocket. Don quietly picks it up. When Amy, his wife, asks about it, Don tells her not to tell anyone, because right now, he can't trust anybody. Later, Don goes alone to the pilot's body and cuts his finger, using the fingerprint to unlock the phone. Meanwhile, the middle-aged couple, David and Lisa, are talking. Lisa tells her husband she doesn't believe the pilot died naturally. Lisa used to work as a nurse in a hospital, and once, she saw a patient die from suffocation. The pilot's face has turned the same dark shade she saw in that patient. To her, that means someone intentionally smothered him, but she doesn't tell the others, because clearly, the killer must be one of the 8 passengers. David is stunned and asks, "Why would anyone among us want to kill the pilot?" Lisa says that's exactly what they need to find out. From now on, they must be careful and trust no one except each other. Just then, she feels like someone is listening to their conversation. She quickly stops talking. Elsewhere, Christina approaches Amy and says she knows Don and Amy aren't actually on a honeymoon. She demands the truth. Amy admits she's the daughter of a wealthy businessman, and Don used to be her family's driver. They fell in love, but knowing their families would never approve, they decided to leave their country and fly to America together. Christina understands they lied, so that the other passengers wouldn't suspect them. Meanwhile, Carlos brings good news. While searching through the plane wreckage, he's found a GPS device. If he can carry it up the nearby hill and activate it, its signal will travel far enough to get help. He says the damage to the device isn't too bad, and he can fix it by tomorrow. Everyone breathes a sigh of relief. Finally, a possible way out. Carlos explains that he once worked as an electrician, which is how he learned to repair such things, but later left the trade to become a fighter. Jack tells him, "All right, fix the GPS today. Tomorrow we'll climb the hill. It should take us about half a day to get to the top." But then Lisa brings bad news. Their food is gone. Although they've been stranded for just one day, the rations meant to last 3 days are already finished. Jack and Christina search the plane to find out who stole it. Watching Christina's investigative skills, Jack remarks that she's no ordinary traveler. No regular tourist investigates like this. Christina finally admits her real identity. She's a reporter who travels to different countries, exposing dangerous gangs and helping police catch them. She lied about her past so that if there was a criminal among them, they wouldn't target her. Now it's clear. Every one of the 8 passengers is hiding something from their past. Since they're out of food and water, Carlos stays back to repair the GPS device, while the others head into the jungle to search for supplies. Along the way, they spot some bright blue mushrooms. From her reporting experience, Christina warns everyone, these are deadly. After some time, they discover a pond. The water isn't clean, so they'll have to find a way to purify it before drinking. Just then, a gunshot rings out behind them. They run back and see David, who has shot a monkey, planning to eat it. It turns out David and Lisa had a gun among their belongings, but hadn't told anyone because they didn't want to scare the group. Now, with the monkey for dinner, they've solved tonight's food problem. Meanwhile, Christina and Jack purify the pond water, making it safe to drink. At least for today, food and water are no longer a concern. However, Amy can't bring herself to eat monkey meat, so David eats her portion instead. Then he raises a question. Does anyone else have something dangerous hidden in their bags? Everyone here has the right to know. Carlos opens his bag and shows only his fighting mask, part of his wrestling persona. They agree that tomorrow, with the GPS device, they'll head up the hill and send a signal for help. For now, there's no need to fear each other. But that night, as everyone sleeps, David suddenly falls ill. Far away, someone watches from behind the plane wreckage. This unknown person pulls out a satellite phone, calls a woman, and says, "The plan is working perfectly so far, and I'll speed things up." This means one of the 8 passengers has been hiding a satellite phone all along and has been orchestrating everything from the start. But why? That's a bigger mystery we'll discover later. The next morning, everyone wakes to the sound of Lisa crying. David has died during the night. Dr. Kevin quickly examined David and realized foam was coming out of his mouth. That meant he had food poisoning, and most likely, someone had fed him toxic mushrooms. The same mushrooms they had seen on the road the day before. Hearing this, Lisa got furious. She began telling everyone that one of them was killing the others one by one. But still, nobody knew why someone among them would want to murder the rest. After all, these 8 people didn't even know each other before meeting at the flat. Lisa claimed the captain had been deliberately killed, and she said she could tell by looking at the killer's face in that moment. But back then, she had kept quiet to avoid starting a fight with everyone. Now remembering all this, Lisa told David everything. Right then, she felt someone approaching from behind, someone listening to their entire conversation. That's why the killer had targeted David next and tried to murder him. Yesterday, when they found those poisonous mushrooms in the jungle, one of them must have secretly picked some up and mixed them into David's food at night. On top of that, David had also eaten mangoes yesterday. Who knew if those mangoes had been poisoned too? Now, everyone began to panic, because if the killer really was one of them, every single life here was in danger. And the fact that their plane had crashed in the jungle, followed by members dying one after another, all pointed to this not being an accident at all, but something planned in advance. So, they split up. Nobody trusted each other anymore. Danny showed his wife Amy Parrott's phone, which he had picked up earlier. On that phone, they found Parrott's last video recording. In it, Parrott admitted that there was a huge secret hidden on the plane, and that it had been deliberately crashed. Danny and Amy shared the video with the others. Now everyone was certain that there really was a bigger danger hiding behind all this, that the deaths so far were not accidents, but premeditated. Carlos then announced that he had finally fixed the GPS device. Now they just needed to climb the mountain to set it up. But nobody trusted anyone anymore. The real killer among them didn't want this mission to succeed, because once the device started working, they could all get out of here. They discussed who would climb the mountain and who would stay behind to guard the camp. Not everyone could go at once. Jack volunteered to stay at camp. Carlos would go up with Dr. Kevin and Christy. The 3 of them began climbing the mountain with the GPS device. While climbing, Carlos kept eating energy snacks. Christy noticed the wrapper and realized it was from the food that had gone missing, meaning Carlos had stolen their food. That could mean he was the killer. She didn't tell anyone yet, but decided to secretly keep an eye on Carlos to make sure he didn't cause trouble. The GPS device was with Carlos, and if he broke it, they'd be trapped. So Christy took the device from him for safety. The 3 continued climbing, and by midday, they finally reached the top. But while they were climbing, Christy's foot suddenly slipped, and she dangled off the cliff's edge. The GPS device was lying dangerously close to the edge. They all knew if the device fell, their only way out would be gone. Christy grabbed the device first. Meanwhile, Carlos and Kevin pulled both Christy and the device back up. After this, the 3 began to trust each other. If any of them had been the killer, they could have easily let the others fall and die. But instead, they saved each other. Finally, Carlos started setting up the GPS. Kevin checked his phone, still no signal. That meant they would have to rely entirely on the GPS beacon. A while later, Carlos told them he had successfully activated it, and within a few hours, the rescue signal would spread out and someone would come to save them. As the sun set, the three began heading back to camp. Meanwhile, the people at the bottom still weren't trusting one another. Lisa pointed her gun at Jack, telling him to stay away. Since her husband's death, she trusted no one. Danny got angry at Amy, telling her not to talk to anyone and that from now on, he would handle everything alone. Amy began to suspect Danny, thinking she might have made a huge mistake running away with her driver, because she didn't know anything about Danny's past. She had blindly trusted him in love, but now, in this deserted jungle where everyone was dying, she regretted it. Danny yelled that if it weren't for him, she'd already be dead. Seeing Danny like this scared Amy. She had never seen this side of him before. Soon after, the three climbers returned, saying they had set up the GPS and, if lucky, they'd be rescued tomorrow. That night, the 7 survivors sat eating dinner, thinking about how they only needed to survive until tomorrow. Once everyone fell asleep, Carlos began practicing his fighting moves. He wanted to be ready for his competition and had left his family to chase this dream. Even in this deadly situation, he focused only on training, and that's why he had stolen food earlier. But after his practice, he noticed someone standing ahead, dressed in black, wearing his own ring mask. The person stabbed Carlos to death. By morning, Carlos was missing. Jack suggested they split up to search for him. Kevin reminded them, yesterday they had set up the GPS device, so by now a rescue team should have arrived. But nobody knew the device had been sabotaged. The killer had damaged it, so no signal could go out. Unaware of this, the group searched for Carlos. They couldn't find him anywhere. Kevin suggested they should check the device again. Christy agreed, not wanting anyone to go alone. While climbing, they saw vultures gathering. They followed the birds and found Carlos's dead body, murdered last night, and dumped there. They returned to camp and told the others they had lost another member. Now, suspicion turned toward Amy and Danny, since they had been sleeping closest to Carlos the night before. Danny insisted he didn't do it, but the same question kept circling in everyone's minds. If the killer was one of them, what was their real motive? Then Lisa revealed that someone had stolen all the bullets from her gun last night. Only one bullet remained, which she had kept in her pocket. Hearing this, Kevin said that when he treated Danny, he saw a tattoo on his back. This kind of tattoo was usually done by gang members, meaning Danny could be part of a gang. Amy admitted she knew nothing about Danny's past, so maybe he really was behind all this. Danny claimed he hadn't gotten the tattoo willingly. He had been falsely imprisoned, and the gang members in jail had forced him to get it. But later, to change her life, she takes a driver's job at Amir's house, and there she falls in love with Semi. By then, night had already fallen, and a heavy storm with fierce rain had begun outside. So, everyone quickly ran back inside the plane, but that's when they realized why someone was killing them. Because of the rainwater, part of the plane's ceiling broke open and a few bags fell out. When they removed the rest of the ceiling panels, they found the bags full of white powder. Everyone instantly understood. These were packets of drugs being smuggled on this plane. Since Danny had worked with gangs before, he said, "This is worth millions." Slowly, everything became clear. The airline was using passenger flights as a cover to smuggle drugs. That's why their tickets were sold much cheaper than other flights. Apparently, someone had leaked the airline's secret, and that's why they deliberately crashed the plane into the jungle. Among the survivors, the person killing others was clearly trying to keep all the goods for themselves. But one thing still didn't make sense. Why did the killer need to murder everyone else? While everyone was thinking about this, they saw Amy panic and run out of the plane. She now had things that could cost the others their lives. Danny immediately ran after her to find her. After some discussion, Kevin convinced the group that no one should go outside. But ignoring that, Lisa also went out to look for Amy. Outside, the rain was pouring down and the wind was howling so loudly that nothing else could be heard. Lisa searched with her gun ready, but suddenly, the killer attacked her from behind. Just before dying, she caught a glimpse of the killer's face under the mask, but it was too late. In the morning, seeing Lisa's body made everyone furious. Despite their efforts, the killer kept picking them off one by one. They began suspecting each other, but there was no way to figure out which one of the 5 survivors was the real murderer. Then Christy pointed a gun at Jack. She said she had just found Lisa's bullets inside Jack's things. That meant Jack must be the killer. She had even more proof. She found a satellite phone in Jack's bag. Christy was now completely convinced he was behind it all. Jack denied everything. He admitted he removed the bullets from Lisa's gun, but only because he suspected Lisa was the killer and wanted to keep everyone safe. As for the satellite phone, he swore it wasn't his. Someone must have planted it in his bag to frame him. Kevin suggested they use the satellite phone to call for help immediately, but Christy said she had already tried. The phone was locked with a password, and without unlocking it, it wouldn't work. Since it was Jack's phone, only Jack would know the password. Jack insisted it wasn't his phone and he didn't know the password. Danny got angry and attacked him, but Kevin stopped him, saying, "If we kill Jack, and he's the only one who knows the password, we'll never get out of here." So they decided to keep Jack alive, but tied up. Now the remaining 4 survivors decided to pick one person at random to interrogate Jack. By bad luck, Kevin's name came up. Kevin went to Jack and again demanded the password. Jack refused, saying he was being framed. Out of frustration, Kevin began torturing him. Meanwhile, Christy, Danny, and Amy went to check the GPS device on the hilltop. There, they found its wires had been disconnected. That's why no rescue had come. Christy reconnected the wires and turned the device on. This finally transmitted their location to the US. The rescuers now knew the missing plane was in the Amazon jungle, but that was outside US territory. Since the airline wasn't registered in America, the US military couldn't go there. So a government investigator named Claire went to the airline's office and ordered an investigation. The manager casually told her to go ahead, but reminded her only the Mexican army could enter that territory. Here, it was revealed that Claire was actually Jack's wife. Jack had gone on a secret mission to investigate the airline. That's why Claire had been trying to find him. Now it was clear that Jack couldn't be the killer, but the other 4 survivors still didn't know this. Later, Christy visited tied up Jack alone. She suspected he was telling the truth. She reasoned, if the killer wanted everyone dead, they would have stolen Lisa's gun entirely, not just the bullets. Convinced now, she secretly untied Jack and told him to run away so the others couldn't keep torturing him. The next morning, the remaining 3 were shocked that Jack had escaped. Danny and Amy got angry. If Jack was truly the killer, now he was free, and their lives were still at risk. Kevin, remembering how he had tortured Jack, feared Jack would come for revenge. Danny took Amy and moved away from Christy and Kevin, saying he trusted no one. Christy warned that splitting up would only make it easier for the real killer. Elsewhere, Jack, now far from camp, searched for his own shelter since only Christy didn't see him as a threat. Danny reassured Amy that nothing would happen to her. The GPS was already working, and the rescue team would arrive soon. Sure enough, orders reached the Mexican army to head to the GPS location and rescue the survivors. Soldiers boarded a helicopter toward the Amazon jungle. Meanwhile, Danny and Amy sat together, while the other 3 survivors wandered in different directions. Suddenly, several gunshots rang out. Danny and Amy rushed back to camp, only to find that both had been shot dead from behind. Now, only Christy, Jack, and Kevin remained, and one of them was the real killer who had been murdering everyone from the start. The army was closing in on their location, and that's where episode 4 ended. The next part would be covered in part 2 of the video, which promised even bigger twists.